Hello, today is Monday, May 18th. Welcome to episode 597 of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute's podcast that gets you quickly up to speed 3 times a week on the national security and foreign policy debate shaking up America. I'm NSI Advisory Board member Lester Munson. I'm joined today by senior fellows Jessica Jones and Amy Mitchell. Folks, we are scheduled to talk about Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, and his political future. Over the weekend, there were reports that he was planning to step down, and he had told friends things to that effect. And so it sure looked like Monday morning when we're recording this, there would be news out of London that the British Prime Minister was stepping down, and our good friends across the pond are the other end of the special relationship. We're going to get their 9th Prime Minister in the last 20 years and their 6th in the last 10 years. However, that is not exactly the case. Prime Minister Starmer has announced that he's not stepping down, at least not today. Maybe he'll step down on Tuesday. Maybe he'll step down later in the week, maybe later in the month, maybe later in the year, maybe not at all, maybe not till the next British election between the parties, which is scheduled for 2029, which does seem a little way off. It does bring up, however, the kind of mercurial nature of British politics. There was an election a couple of weeks ago at the local level. The ruling Labour Party got creamed, lost hundreds of positions to the Green Party. Conservatives or the Tories lost a number of seats to the Reform Party, which is an anti-immigration kind of startup by Nigel Farage, has been around for a little bit. That may be the most popular party in the UK right now. Probably not enough for a majority, but enough for a plurality. So the politics in Britain are stormy. They are all over the place. They are hard to pin down. This is one of the aspects of democracy that I think we're all experiencing in different ways. Notably, our other Western European friends in France and Germany also have elected leaders who are wildly unpopular. The Chancellor of Germany, Friedrich Merz, is answering that challenge by lashing out at the United States and telling people he wouldn't recommend people to travel here. That's not very nice. So I throw it to you, Jessica Jones. This is not really news. It's more of a kind of a vibe check, perhaps, a statement on the current situation politically, both in our country, with our European friends, and perhaps around the globe. What are your thoughts about the future of Keir Starmer, or anything else for that matter, on this Monday morning?
Future of anything you want to talk about. No, I think you've encapsulated well, Les, the messy and the chaos. It's not just about this election, and it's not just confined to the UK. We see it across the European continent. We see it here. You see folks just generally unhappy with their leadership, and leadership having to realize it might not be tied to party, right? It's widening, it's different. It's the US, France, Germany. You've talked about it, and you see both right now in the UK, and they had a large Unite the Kingdom rally over the weekend as well. Just tensions around immigration, obviously economic frustration, housing, stagnating living standards, kind of the same conversations we're having here in the US, and just overall distrust in political elites, in institutions. And so it's not just, you can't just point it as a straightforward shift to the right? That's not all that's happening. You're seeing even backlashes against nationalist or populist parties. You're seeing kind of some gains from the moderate left. It's just all over the place, right? We talked about Orban losing in Hungary, which we didn't, he had been kind of this wild card for a number of years. Poland is fluctuating. And so you see gains just left and right, and just divergences. And so you see that same fragmentation right now. That's what's playing out in the UK. With the rise of the Reform Party, the Reform UK Party, and so the traditional Labour and Conservatives. Now you've got a new party in the mix, and so I think it's wild times for democracy as we watch it play out in Europe and here, and the same kind of tensions we're facing as we head into our own midterms, as we head into towards the end of the second Trump administration, what our own presidential election looks like in 2028, and how these trends are going to continue to play out. We don't, we've got the Iran conflict. We obviously have high gas prices. People are talking about the economy here. We haven't seen, if you're going to be a populist leader and you promise change and lower prices, and that doesn't happen, you're going to be voted out, right? Like that's what's going to happen. And so we're going to we might see some of the same impact. So it's going to be really interesting to watch this play out as the elections continue across Europe.
Amy Mitchell, we those of us in this country who may be concerned about some of the things that happen in our own government, occasionally the thought occasionally occurs that, gosh, it'd be nice if we had some stability and some predictability and competent management of government. Now, you could argue Keir Starmer wasn't super competent, but he was predictable. He was stable. He remains so, I suspect, today and probably into tomorrow. Do people, in fact, want stability? Is stability overrated? China, we just had this summit between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping. China likes to brag about being stable. Is that a good thing? Are we overplaying the stability thing? What are your thoughts?
Well, thank you for bringing China into this discussion.
You're welcome.
And I like how you're referring to Starmer already in the past tense.
Hey, he
might. Change is imminent.
He might outlast the head of lettuce. We'll see.
He might not. That said, I think people do like stability. There is a key distinction, though, between our definition of stability and the Chinese Communist Party's definition of stability, which is more oppression versus actual stability. Human nature is what it is. They like a good story, the comeback, but at the end of the day, people don't like change. They want things to be predictable. They want their leaders to just lead, maybe not be seen. In Britain, Jess said, we're experiencing the same, kind of pangs of government right now, but theirs is a heightened, right? That they haven't ever, where we bounced back a couple years ago, and we're seeing the stock market even today explode. That effect has not taken hold on the UK throughout Europe, and it's because of their underlying, essentially socialist form of government with government-run healthcare, their social programs, right? You go to France, you may or may not be working on a Tuesday because you don't feel like working that day, right? So, and come the month of August or, even mid-July, most of Europe will not be working. So there's a fundamental difference between how Americans view government, stagnation, the economy, right? Where there's this inherent will to succeed versus in the UK and across Europe, they have become accustomed to kind of the government daddy, the babysitting. And now they have gotten to a point where they can't sustain it. And you are going to see these, changes in leadership over and over, whether or not Starmer, makes it through the next week, the next month, the next 3 months. We'll leave that to Polymarket at this point.
And Kelshi.
I'm sorry, and
Kelshi.
We don't condone gambling.
We do not.
Or pick one. We don't pick
why we are not going on it. But I think fundamentally, though, at the end of the day, he does make it through this. The Reform Party, as many gains as Nigel has seen over the last even year, which has been amazing. The party was just founded 2-3 years ago, if that. And Nigel's main focus, as Jess said, is on immigration right now. He stands on the beaches of Dover, videotaping, kind of these boats coming in and calling the authorities.
Well, he was the leader of the Brexit movement, which was successful 10 years ago. So he's not really a total rookie to British politics.
Oh, no. I'm not saying that he's a rookie, right? But the Reform is newly formed. He was kicked out of his own party. He started Reform, right? Nigel would make a very entertaining prime minister. I think he's a buddy of Trump's. But right now, he just doesn't have the seats in which to get elected.
So from your earlier comments, Amy, it sounds like Europe is ready for a low tax, low regulation, pro-business economic boom. Is that going to happen?
Europe has.
Wouldn't that be great?
Where I agree with the administration is that Europe has made its own bed, and it has opportunity after opportunity to fix whether or not it's defense spending, reliance on the United States, their social programs, right? They have had opportunity after opportunity. And their solution is always to have another summit, another meeting. Let's go to Brussels. Let's talk. Let's put out a press statement. Do something. This is your opportunity.
Well,
do something.
we are reminded that Europeans doing things is not always fantastic for the rest of the world. And sometimes we have to get involved to kind of calm everything down and get them turned in the right direction. So, maybe it's okay.
Donald Trump is such a calming factor. How would I not have guessed that?
We have troops in Germany for a reason.
Not anymore.
There's still thousands there. I mean, we took 5,000 out. I think there's like 45,000 left, right? I do think it's interesting that there does seem to be this instability around the globe. It is part of democracy. The people get to decide. The people get cranky, and even though prosperity around the world has never been this high, and the average level, lifestyle of the average person has never been higher in human history. And there's a real flourishing going on in the United States and in a whole bunch of other countries. There does seem to be dissatisfaction with political leadership. That might not be such a terrible thing, as people kind of express their views and want to change leadership, not getting too emotionally wedded to one or the other might be a good thing. And there might be an opportunity here for
God's ears.
What's that?
Not getting emotionally wedded to one candidate, from your lips to God's ears.
It might be a good thing, folks. And maybe you can have a little experimentation on the public policy approach. Maybe a low tax, low regulation thing will work really well. I don't know. It does occur to me that it might be something we want to take a look at. Okay, that's a wrap. Thanks to Grace Trice, Claude Jennings, and the NSI staff for their help in producing today's episode. Join us on Wednesday, May 20th, for another episode of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute's podcast that gets you smart fast on the national security and foreign policy debate shaking up America. We're on YouTube. Check out our channel there for a video of today's episode. If you like what you heard or saw, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe.